Well, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone, to the Development and Property Committee for October the 11th. I've called this meeting to order. Good afternoon. Lovely sunny fall day out there. The colors are beautiful in Renfrew County. Should be all kinds of tourists coming up here at this time. With that, I will ask Dan to read the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Chair. As we gather this afternoon, I would like to acknowledge on behalf of Council and our community that we are meeting on the traditional territory of the Algonquin people. We would like to thank the Algonquin people and express our respect and support for their rich history, and we are extremely grateful for their many and continued displays of friendship. We also thank all the generations of people who've taken care of this land for thousands of years.
Thank you very much, Dan. Roll call has been taken.
Yes, and we have quorum.
Thank you. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Does any member wish to disclose any pecuniary interest in any of the matters before us today? Seeing none, adoption of the minutes of the previous meetings, at 12th and 28th of September. They're attached or distributed, and any errors or omissions to the minutes is distributed. Seeing none, of you move in a second, please. Sheldon, seconded by Jeb. No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. No delegations at this time? No, Jason? Nothing? Okay. Then we'll go over to the department report, which starts on page 3. Jason, please.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, committee members. Just 2 items for information on page 3 of your committee package. Item number 1 is information about the Renfrew Shire twinning. So our Chair Sweet, was asked by the Renfrew and County District School Board to prepare a quick presentation about this twinning exercise that we do to see what they can do in the sense of some of their shared synergies with the school board, with exchange students and things like that. So I'll leave it at that now for Chair, unless you want to add some additional comments about this request.
They approached me because it's part and parcel of what the director said was in their wheelhouse. One of the pillars of this particular situation, as you know, is education and cultural exchanges. And they do have an international group that have teacher exchanges, student exchanges all over Europe, and they just thought this is just an absolute, within their wheelhouse, within their environment, and would like to see a little bit more, hear a little bit more about it. And I accepted an invitation to go and talk with them, as you see there, on October the 18th. Jason, I believe, is going to come with me, and Morton, I don't know if you want to be in part of it, but it's just an overture and an information type idea. This whole process is very much in its infancy at this point in time, although there's a lot of interest behind the scene on this particular project. So we'll talk with them on that day. So a very short 20-minute presentation with the video that was produced and the memorandum of understanding as well, and see where it takes it from there. Okay, Jason?
Thank you, Chair. And item number 2 is it talks about the proposed departmental restructuring. I think we're at a good point in time where the different jobs or different staffing changes that has occurred just recently with my hiring here, with Craig Kelly moving on to the CAO, we can take a really good look at the existing staff vacancies and really to look at this along with the 2020 strategic review that happened in 2020, I should say. And so we're really looking and focusing on the forestry and GIS division. We're looking at the trails division specifically to see how we can work with our public works department to see what we can do for the trail maintenance. Again, looking at GIS and how it can fit within our departmental itself. This is in conjunction with our existing ESRI small business license agreement. We just signed on with ESRI, so there's a lot of stress being put on different divisions within our department, and this will be a good opportunity to review these stressors to see what we can do for efficiencies. I want to make sure it's clear, at least at this committee level, that we're not looking at cost savings, but more efficiencies through the departmental structural review. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for that. With that, we'll go back to item number 1. Any comments or questions on item number 1? Then item number 2. Maybe you can help me with this, or help committee. This was part, I believe, of the Strategy Corporation suggestions that we take a look at that type of thing. Is that correct, CEO or Jason? Jason?
Through you, Chair. So yes, so Strategy Core in the 2002 or 2020 recommendation looked at the idea of the synergies. I use the word synergies, the reliance with our trails maintenance with our public works department. So our public works have the staff, they have the assets when they look after their roads. The strategy review or strategic plan review looked at that the possibility of the department utilizing that public works department to maintain our existing trail network of the K&P and Algonquin Trail. And they also talked about in the review looking at the forestry itself, to maybe look how it's structured within our department in the hierarchy. Who does the forestry staff report to? And also talked about the idea of reviewing the number of managers in the development of property committee, so our development of property department. So we're looking at that. So right now we have 4 positions, managerial positions, and it's a good opportunity to look at to see if there's a need for 4 within our department. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any comments on item number 2? Seeing none, then we'll go to the Ottawa, where are we? Economic Development Report. Melissa, please.
Thank you, Chair Sweet. First up on the report is Taste of the Valley. So we are just getting towards the end of our Taste of the Valley events. Renfrew, we held an event in Renfrew on September 24th, and Deep River on October 1st, and Arnprior on October 2nd, with approximately 4,000 visitors attending over those 3 events. And then our final event, and the biggest one of the year, is this Saturday, October 15th in Cobden, and there's over 100 vendors registered for that event. Which is always the great big last hurrah of our fall harvest. And then new for this year, and in partnership with the Township of Laurentian Valley, we've just launched a Taste of the Valley Holiday Edition, which will be held on November 26th at the Shady Nook Recreation Center, and that will be primarily focused on craft makers, holiday makers, as well as food producers and food vendors as also. So we're excited for that new event for this year. Number 2 is the Farms Open event. If you recall, this is a brand new event that was held on September 18th. It was spearheaded by the Ottawa Valley Food Co-op and supported by Economic Development and the OVTA in terms of marketing and promotion. It was a relatively poor weather day that day. There was lots of rain, but despite that, a lot of the host sites, there were 9 in total, had great participation, and those that did attend were very engaged in learning more about rural living and agricultural opportunities. And so they're looking to make that an annual event moving forward, which we will continue to support. Number 3 is Renfrew County Day at Queen's Park, and so this has been previously communicated, but this event is being held on November 3rd, and it's an opportunity for our business community and elected officials to speak one-on-one and bring issues forward that are impacting Renfrew County to the elected MPPs that are sitting at Queen's Park. So invitations have gone out to the business community, and we're looking at sector representation from our key priority sectors being nuclear, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and forestry. And also there will be representation of the Ontario Winter Games there as a reminder that we are the host in February and March of 2023. And we're just working on the travel, logistics, and accommodations, and highlighting what all those treats and event details are going to be. And that will be communicated with those that will be attending in the next week. Number 4, Atomic Energy of Canada has issued a request for expressions of interest. As you're aware, Canadian Nuclear Laboratories is currently being managed under a third-party contract, and so that contract comes up for renewal in 2025. So this is their initial expressions of interest to see if there are qualified companies out there who are interested in taking on the renewal of that, and then they'll be working on another procurement program based on those expressions of interest, and those are all due on October 26th. And then lastly, just an update, staff, myself and our business development officer, as well as CAO Craig Kelly, attended the Ontario East Municipal Conference in Cornwall. There were a number of other elected from the county and staff in attendance as well. And this was just a good opportunity for staff to engage with our Eastern Ontario municipal colleagues, learn about updates, and hear programming updates from our ministerial programs, as well as hear about other sector initiatives revolving immigration, attraction, housing, labor market information. And that wraps up the items of information. Did you want me to take a break before I went to the bylaw?
Melissa, I think we'll deal with the information items, then we'll come back to your bylaw, okay? So, back to item number 1, comments or questions. Dan?
Thank you, Chair. Melissa, do you set the dates for the Taste of the Valley? The reason I ask is the first was in Deep River and the second was in Renfrew. I'm wondering if the vendors in Pembroke, Cobden found it a long trip to Deep River one day and then Renfrew the next day?
Through you, Chair Sweet. Yes, the dates are set in advance by the staff, and that's based on host participant interest. So when host communities submit their interest to us on hosting, they submit their preferred dates of when it's convenient and works with them for their local fall markets. And so we did communicate with the two, like all the vendors know when we do the vendor recruitment, all the dates are set out at the same time, so the vendors are familiar or are aware that there are 2 dates on that same weekend. We don't tend to have the same vendors that attend both events, and so we didn't receive feedback from the vendors that was an issue for them having 2 events back-to-back on the weekend. But we are going to be sending out a survey following all the events this year just to gauge everybody's feedback, because we'll be looking at those types of issues as well as other suggestions and improvements for the coming years.
Thank you. Further on 1? It's nice to see it back up and flourishing. After 3 years, it certainly would appear that with the response that is well received, and it's certainly going to grow beyond this. So yeah, it's nice to see this up and running, and it helps all the farming community and those who are in the produce areas to get their wares out or their merchandise out. It's good to see. So job well done getting that up and running, and I see that potentially as a way of growing even bigger and better going forward. So good job to everyone. Item 2. Renfrew County Day at Queen's Park. The details, as have been articulated, are still in the process of being put together. It sounds like an opportunity to take what we do well in Renfrew County and showcase it to the politicians in Toronto. So, comments with regards to item number 3. Warden?
Thank you very much, Chair. Through you to Melissa, I'm just wondering what kind of a response we're getting from the various sectors right now as far as their participation is concerned on the 3rd.
Through you, Chair Sweet. Invitations went out last week, so they have a deadline of this Friday to let us know. So I don't really have a full indication for you now, but the response has been very positive. They're just figuring out who's going to attend on their behalf of their business and stuff like that. But we are expecting, we've invited approximately 2 businesses per sector to attend, and we're anticipating that we will have that representation.
Further on item number 3. Sounds like a exciting day down in Queen's Park. Good. Well, more details will be coming as they become available. Item number 4, atomic energy, issues for expressions of interest. This is a long way out. Warden?
Thank you very much, Chair. My question is that when the GOCO model was just starting, we, as in the royal we, the County of Renfrew, really inserted ourselves into the process. I know for sure that yourself and Councillor Emo were heavily involved at that time. So is there a need for us to start to think about this again and getting involved with perhaps the next company that operates a GOCO?
I don't disagree with that at all. I think we've been very active, involved with that, are very supportive of CNL. And if nothing else, perhaps a letter of some sort outlining the support that we see of the GOCO model would be something that would be in order, certainly from the counties, through the county's eyes. And I think the stability that CNL had provided in that environment and the capital works that have been put in place are tremendous, and I think these should be articulated. You don't have too much time, as it says here at the 26th. They have to put their expressions of interest in there, but I think somewhere along the line we should certainly be looking at showing our support, as you've articulated in the past. And I know intervener status with Peter and at their hearings, etc., very well received. So it's a partnership. Warden.
Thank you. Yes, it is. And also, I mean, and maybe my memory isn't correct, but I do recall that some of the proponents actually coming and talking to us about the support that they were offering to the county of Renfrew and other local communities, the city of Pembroke as well, about how they would be also a really good community partner for us. Obviously, you know, the employment opportunities are very, very important to our residents, but we were looking at the whole thing, like who, in our opinion, was the best fit for the residents of the county of Renfrew. And I'm really going to put Councillor Emo on the spot here, because I would kind of like him to sort of weigh in a bit and remind me exactly where we were, you know, how we ended up with enough status that we actually had, if not a say, we had some opportunities for input into the various companies that we're looking for. So there you go, Councillor Emo.
Thank you, Warden. And I was just ordering it in my mind. What had happened was we had written to the Minister of Natural Resources, who was overseeing this transition on behalf of the federal government, and asked that we be included, given that we noticed the terms of reference talked about local involvement or local investment. There was some key word that we clutched onto and didn't let go. And then we became useful because they could see that we could organize the local events. We started chairing their public meetings, and so that their staff could, Ministry of Natural Resources staff or Resources Canada staff could focus on informing and doing presentations. And then we further took liberties of suggesting we'd like to meet with all of the consortiums and offer them pointers on what we, the community, expected. And that's, as soon as we got the door open with our foot, we put the rest of ourselves in through the door and became, I think, a valued partner with the federal government, and I think the eventual consortiums, the three that were selected for the finalists, I think they were happy to have our input as well. And when I look at the last bullet point, supporting Canadian industry, both nuclear and other, through access to science and technology and expertise, I'm not sure we've received a full report on that. And I'm not sure we've ever received a full report on what kind of investment they've made in community events. You know, it'd be nice to go back to our initial ask, because I think we wrote 3 letters of ask with it, getting a little more focused, just to see how, you know, in terms of a report card. So I agree with you. I would suggest it might behoove us to write a letter to the federal government, reminding them of our role in the past and asking to be reinstated as they review this this expression of interest as well.
Thank you, Warden.
Thank you, Chair. And just finally, so I want to make sure that my comments don't suggest that I don't think the consortium that is there now is not doing its job. It has. I think Mr. McBrearty and his staff have reached out to many municipalities and certainly the county of Renfrew over the last 7 years. And from my opinion, have done an excellent job. I do see them supporting a lot of community events, but I also think it would be really good to have that report card that Councillor Emo was suggesting, and also to make sure that we just insert ourselves again to make sure that any impact we can have on the final decision of you know, who the company will be, and to making sure that the needs of our residents are considered in that is an opportunity.
So Peter's suggestion, perhaps some sort of correspondence to the federal government would be in order at this point in time. Somewhere along the line, I think we should get our name in front of the process, and as you say, not necessarily supporting one company over another type of situation, other than the fact that, CNL have done a spectacular job. They really have, in my view. But that would be a decision that would have to come through as far as the tendering is concerned with the process. But I don't disagree that we should somehow or rather get our name in front of the federal government as far as that is concerned, that we would like to be, when it goes forward, that we would be part of that process. Jeb.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think it's especially important now to stay involved, especially during this over the next transition phase. We have a group of people in there now who have certainly done a tremendous job in making CNL a real world-class place, and it's just unbelievable to go down there now compared to when I retired 13 years ago. They have been tremendous on how they've re-engineered the whole place, and it's still not over yet. But what's really important is once all this infrastructure has been put in place, it's important to see how it's going to operate, and I think it's so important for folks here in Renfrew County, have a bit of a finger on the pulse. So we got to let them know who we are. We also got to let them know the type of people that we have and what we can do to try to help. And I think we got to continue to do that. And in order to, we got to stay close to our friends and hopefully that we can support them as much as they us. Thank you.
Thank you. So going forward, do you want a resolution of this group going forward to move something? Dan?
Yes, Chair, that the warden write a letter to the federal government advising that we're still part of the team and we wish to continue to be partners. Something along that line?
Yeah. Agreed? That's it, you're making a motion? Yes. Somebody going to second that? Jeb? Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Whoops, sorry, Peter.
Thank you. And I'm just, again, was going through my memory, but we were asking for the initial 3 or 4, I think we had 5 asks that we settled on. One was maintain the level of employment. 2 was investment in the campus itself. And 3 was investment in the community. 4 was developing new science, which we were hoping for a reactor, but that never happened. But the small nukes, I think, is a suitable replacement. I can't remember what the 5th was. I think it was the waste as well. But I think when we prepare the letter, if we want to do a little forward thinking and make a suggestion as to what our next asks are, and I think it's the level of employment, continued migration of science to the site to keep it current, and then also if the initial investment of $1.2 billion has been expended, what's the next allocation? So those are the kinds of things I think we may want to sketch that out right away in the initial letter. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that the future is extremely bright for what is happening in Deep River. I think it's fair to say it's the second largest independent, but single employer within and moving and getting larger as we go forward. I think the future is bright with the small modular reactors and moving towards a national laboratory here situated in Chalk River, Deep River area. I think that's just great news. Now, I can't see where we would not want to be part of that discussion. So I support the recommendation that we have put forward. Further discussion? Then I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Item number 5, the Ontario East Municipal Conference. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, then we'll go to bylaws. Melissa, back to you.
Thank you, Chair Sweet. I will read the recommendation, which is says bylaws about a newcomer and workforce attraction development initiative. Recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council pass a bylaw to enter into a contribution agreement for the Rural Economic Development Funding Program, for which Economic Development Division has been approved to assist with newcomer and worker attraction and development initiatives. And the background on this is Economic Development had submitted an application to the RED program earlier this spring for a newcomer workforce attraction and development initiative. And so the funding was approved at 65% of total project costs. So that would mean a contribution from the provincial government of approximately $76,000 for a total project budget of $117,000, with the county's contribution, direct contribution coming in at $15,000. And then we also had, we'll be having financial contribution from partners on this program also, which includes the Renfrew County Community Futures Development Corporation, Local Immigration and Partnership Group of Renfrew Lanark, the Town of Petawawa, City of Pembroke, Labour Market Group of Renfrew Lanark, and Laurentian Valley Township also.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions on the bylaw in the background before for a mover? Warden.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, to Melissa. I received an invitation this morning from the Local Immigration Partnership about an attraction and retention strategy community consultation. Is this all part of a parcel of the same thing? And if so, I'm hoping that I will certainly attend, and it's virtual, so it's easy for people to attend, but I think that's really crucial that we get, if this is part of what we're doing, to really get the word out there, because the more community partners that provide comments and brainstorm, I think the better we're all going to be as far as trying to bring newcomers into the county of Renfrew. Certainly from the perspective of a position recruiter, oftentimes I can bring people here, but it's so important that we have a welcoming environment, and that it's not just thanks for coming out, and we forget that folks have maybe no roots here and have to develop those roots, and so retention is a huge part of recruitment.
Through you, Mayor Sweet. Yeah, so I also received that email this morning, and it was the first time I was aware of it. So from what I could see from that email, I think that was a program that maybe had already been initiated, because I believe, just going from recollection from the email, there's partnership with other local immigration partnership groups. I believe it was Cornwall maybe from the area, and a couple of other areas. So I do believe that is a separate initiative, but definitely will contribute to the overall outcomes of this project that we will be doing for sure.
Further on 6. Peter.
And thank you, Chair. Through you to Ms. Marquardt. So when I look at C, Schedule C, where it talks about project description, do we already know what, are we focusing on 3 sectors or 4 sectors? Are we focusing on a tech sector, or because it, I kind of need to understand what the focus of our marketing strategy is. I presume it's not going to be come live here because we got lots of jobs. It's going to be very directed. So I'm just a little curious about how the direction was achieved.
Through you, Chair Sweet. Yes, so I have to go back and look at all the details. I know we have because this was submitted before me. I know that we are having a planning meeting with all the project partners to develop all that, so I'd have to go back in some notes. I would assume that we would be focusing on our priority sector markets and those sectors that have been struggling, ideally tourism, manufacturing, but I have to go back to the project notes, and then those will be details that will be figured out as our project partners get together and
Thank you, and that's fair. Thank you.
Further on item number 6 in the bylaw. Seeing none, I need a mover and a seconder, please. Peter, Warden. Further discussion, if any, then I'll call for the vote. All in favour? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, then we'll go to the Ottawa Valley Tourist Association. And again, Melissa, please.
Thank you, Chair Sweet. First on the report is a staffing update. And I'm pleased to introduce Ms. Ryan Gilbertson, who joins us at the back of the room today as the County of Renfrew's newest Tourism Development Officer and joining the Economic Development and Tourism team. So we're very happy to have Ryan join the ranks, who joined us on September 26th. Number two, we've launched the survey portion and research portion of the culinary tourism strategy development for the Ottawa Valley. So a survey is open. It launched on October 4th and remains open until October 16th. And that is being widespread to all tourism businesses as well as those with a focus on culinary, so restaurants, food vendors, food trucks, producers, farmers markets, all that type of thing. So we're encouraging all those businesses to submit their responses to the survey by October 16th. And then we'll be holding a stakeholder workshop in Eganville on November 23rd to review that feedback and come up with some priority action items as we start the work on the actual strategy. Number three is it's fall touring time, obviously, as Mayor Sweet started at the beginning of the meeting, and we're seeing lots of visitors coming to the region. The Ottawa Valley was featured in the Great Taste of Ontario special report that was released in the Globe and Mail on September 30th, and so there's a link there for a great article that highlights places to stay and eat and things to do in the region, and featured a number of our businesses from across the region. Number four, the Canadian Canoe Route was featured in Must Do Canada. This is part of our travel trade initiative, so we hosted Must Do Canada, which is a blog from Western Canada. They came and did the Canadian Canoe Route in August, and so there was a great blog and video series that's been released about that. And that was part of our, as I mentioned, that's part of our travel trade efforts with Ontario's Highlands and part of our refocus on the domestic market as we continue to wait for the international market to return at 100%. And that completes the OETA report.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to item number one. Well, certainly on behalf of committee and members of County Council, it's great to welcome you as part of the team. You've got 20 minutes if you want to talk to us about your strategy going forward. Seriously, it's nice to have you with us. And Renfrew County has got a great opportunity in tourism. And I keep pressing to get the 2 million mark passed of visitors to Renfrew County, so you got a big job on your shoulders. So welcome to the team. Nice to have you here. Anyone on one? How about two? Tourism strategy. Item number three, I just get hungry when I read all the list of these special restaurants and beaver tails and all that sort of good stuff. Beaver tails, right? Beaver tails, there you go. Bistro in Deep River and Fifth Chute and Whitewater Inn and Beachburg. I don't know how you can't get hungry just reading that list, so great opportunities here. Any comments on three? Then we'll go to item number four. Okay, thank you, Melissa. Then we'll go then to Enterprise Renfrew County. Melissa, please.
Thanks again, Chair Sweet. So number one is Starter Company Plus, the fall intake session. So the information sessions were held in September with 46 participants in attendance. And then following the program training, which began on September 21st, we have 26 approved applicants, which is a higher than the normal number. So we're very, very pleased with that outcome. And program participants are coming from all across the region and offer a variety of services from retail, construction, automotive, electrical, arts, recreation, health and wellness, dental, and agriculture. Item number two is the application to a French language services grant that was announced by the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade. And that is an opportunity for Enterprise Renfrew County to basically translate all of its marketing and resource materials into the French language and hire interpreters and French language translators for upcoming French service providers for those that are interested in learning more about starting a business. And if that funding is approved, it would also provide the opportunity to host a Francophone-specific event in the new year with the City of Pembroke. There's actually been a few inquiries recently from the Francophone community to Enterprise Renfrew County, so the timeliness of this grant application is very timely. And so we're hoping to hear in November whether that's successful. Under outreach and partnerships, so we hosted the succession planning workshop in partnership with the Community Futures Development Corporation on September 26th. And we had 26 individuals in attendance. And then this month, the Small Business Month. So the week of October 17th, or October 16th to 20th, sorry, there are a number of workshops virtually, as well as an in-person workshop being geared to entrepreneurs to help update their skills and learn new opportunities for their business. And so we've got a Wellness for Entrepreneurs workshop on the 17th, a Purpose-Driven Ventures workshop on the 19th, Leadership for Entrepreneurs and Newcomers on the 20th, and then an in-person photography workshop on the 18th that's being actually held here in Pembroke. Realizing those dates were not in chronological order, so I apologize. And the link is there should any businesses want to register for those events. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Item number 1. Comments? Item number 2. Item number 3. Okay, then we'll go to Forestry and GIS. Jason?
Thank you, Chair. And I have again with me this month Lacey Rose. She's agreed to do the forestry section of the Forestry and GIS report.
Well, thank you very much. Lacey, welcome. Everyone's favorite forester is with us today, Lacey Rose. Lacey, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Sweet. So first up for information on the forestry side of the Forestry and GIS report is an ongoing saga with black ash in Ontario. You may remember that in early 2021, black ash was listed as an endangered species, which we wrote a letter about at that time, it being problematic as it being such a common species in our area and elsewhere in Ontario. Since then, in November of 2021, the provincial government decided to temporarily suspend the protection of black ash, although it's still listed as endangered under the Endangered Species Act. And the most recent segment of this consultation has been the release of the black ash recovery strategy, which we did provide input on. So I had a review of that report, and it is somewhat troublesome in that the regulated habitat has been recommended, although it's not currently been accepted by the government. This was prepared by a consultant as advice to the government as they prepare the next steps on protecting black ash. So it was recommended that every wetland that has at least one black ash in it, plus 28 meters surrounding that wetland, plus every singular black ash in Ontario receive a 28-meter regulated habitat area, which the consultant found to be the likely root zone average of a black ash tree. So you may remember that the endangered species prevents the harm, harassing, or killing of any endangered species. So that would be extremely limiting for not only forestry, but development, roads work, basically anything that happens out there in all parts of the municipal world and beyond. So I filled out the survey and prepared another letter, which is included as an appendix to the report, aligning with the messaging in the previous 2 letters that we submitted. So I'm staying tuned to what is going forward from other organizations as comments and encouraging others. I did encourage others to submit a response to the survey that closed on October 6th. Item number B, although we did get rained out for the hike and yoga event at Shaw Woods, I was able to attend a National Forest Week reception hosted by the Forest Products Association of Canada in Ottawa, which brought together federal MPs that were invited and forest leaders from all over Canada. So that was a good opportunity to highlight that Renfrew County, neighboring the area, has a good wood supply, and we're looking forward to all the advancements coming our way in the forest sector over the coming decade, hopefully. Item C is just an information about a webinar that was hosted by Forest Ontario and the Ontario Forest Industry Association. A really interesting labor market study that was completed in Ontario focusing on youth and employment interest. in the forest sector. The report will be out soon, but they did share some preliminary findings which were interesting but not surprising, that youth have a very low awareness of the forest sector and don't usually mention it as a career choice without being prompted, that there was not an understanding about what kind of jobs are available in forestry, and it's mostly perceived as logging and wood product manufacturing, which is true, but there are also a lot of other ways that you can take a career in forestry. There was about a 50-50 split in negative positive perceptions of careers in the sector, and the survey folks did find that perceptions can be shifted with correct information, and it was showing to be important to promote a multifaceted industry that will grab youth attention. So, this isn't really news to us. We've been taking action for a number of years now to promote and educate about forestry being a profession and encourage a positive perception of sustainable forestry through classroom visits, career fairs, social media, and all kinds of other outreach. In fact, just got back into the classroom last week to talk to a group of grade 9s, so that was great to be back out there. And we'll continue to undertake those activities as time allows to assist the local sector in improving public perception and trying to find those future employees. And item number D, another interesting future development in forestry. So at the last meeting, but LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging inventory, can also be applied to forestry. So why does this matter to us? We have a inventory for the Renfrew County Forest that is based off of 1987 photo interpretation. All of our updates have been done manually, people in the woods collecting data, which is great, however, not time effective. So LiDAR has the ability to, when processed using the proper models, tell you the height, diameter, volume, and all kinds of other information about forest stands. So we're just investigating if we can piggyback on a project that the Ontario Woodlot Association is undertaking for private land in Ontario. So we are members of the OWA, and our certification is under that organization. So we've just asked if it's possible for us to be included in a project that they currently have funding for. So we'll keep you posted about that, but it could be exciting to see what LiDAR could do for the management of Renfrew County Forests. And that is the end of the forestry component, so I'm going to pass back over to Jason, if that's okay with you, Chair.
That's a fairly lengthy report. You want to go back and go through that, and then we'll go on to the other information items while it's still fresh in your mind? I think yes. Okay. Then I'll ask any questions on item 1A. 1B. 1C. And 1D. Okay. Thank you. Oh, pardon me, Jeb. Which one?
Thank you, Chair. It was, with regards to 1D.
1D.
D is in. Through you to Lacey, I just a couple of years ago I had the opportunity to meet with some folks at the Petawawa Forestry, and I believe they were using this LiDAR system, and they were very, very impressed with it, very pleased with it. I just wondered if you had, obviously you have had communication with them, so is that was that sort of the starting point or focal point of the LiDAR program?
Through you, Chair. So yes, I've been fortunate to be able to learn from the folks at the Petawawa Research Forest, and other forests in more northern parts of Ontario are using LiDAR as their primary inventory right now. The limiting factor is cost, of course. So luckily at a research facility, they have funding to be the test source for this kind of inventory. Our budget would not allow us to implement that ourselves. So we're investigating if we can jump on board with other programs that are receiving funding to do so on small scale.
Further on 1D. Peter?
Just a quick question on, sorry, and it was 1C, I didn't get my hand up before Jed. When we look at the awareness, or the need to create awareness amongst our youth now, at one point, the school boards were, they had some course a specific course set up, I believe, at Opiongo, where they did chainsaw handling courses, small engine repair, some WIMIS. And it was geared, I think, to agriculture and forestry at the same time. Are they still doing that, or is that something we should champion with them if they're not? Thank you.
Through you, Chair. So yeah, it is the SHISM or SHS High School Skilled Majors program. There's an excellent teacher at Opiongo High School who we have definitely partnered with significantly in the past, and they planted a bunch of trees on Renfrew County Forest a few years ago. So hopefully now that kids are back in the classroom, we can continue to have those kind of relationships with them.
Further on the report, that one A, B, C, D. Thank you, Lacey. Then we'll go back to Jason.
Thanks, Chair. So item number 2 on the forestry GIS report, and that's on page 39 of your committee package, is the Algonquin Trail Trans-Canada Pipeline Overlap Agreement Amendment. So just for information, this item is a housekeeping item. Back in 2020, this committee and county council approved of an agreement with the Trans-Canada Pipeline and Garrison Petawawa to have the trail go through their lands. And in reality, the original agreement is, as you see in the report, was a 5-meter section for the Algonquin Trail. To make a long story short and not to belabor this, we require a little bit more than just 5 meters. So with our legal team of Borden, Ladner, Gervais of Ottawa, we've been working with Trans-Canada Pipeline to increase that 5 meters up to 13 meters to make this trail usable and workable. And we're at a point now where, with the review of BLG, that we can sign this agreement. So this is just an information, Chair, for the Trans-Canada Overlap Agreement.
Thank you.
Item number 3, a donation request. So in your committee package on page 47 and 48 of the report, you'll see a request from a resident of Burns Drive that abuts the trail. He's requesting that he donate on his cost and his effort, donate a fence along the Algonquin Trail. And he's looking to do this donation to help mitigate some aspects of the trail that he doesn't like, noise, some smells, some visually, just some visual aspects. So he's willing to donate a fence, about a 6 to 7 foot high fence along the trail. And he wants to be able to hire the contractor to do this work. And this item was brought to the attention of the Algonquin Trail Advisory Committee that met last Wednesday, and they approved of this request. So it's a kind of a good news story. Somebody's willing to work with us to help reduce some of the mitigation factors of the trail, and we're willing to work with this person too as we move forward. And also in the request on page 48 is for us, the County of Renfrew, to look at he's donating this to see if he can get either a donation receipt from us, or maybe in the future, if we get grants, payback for this. So staff is just reviewing that process right now. So that's an information item, Chair, for item number 3.
Thank you very much. We'll go back to item number 2. This has been quite a journey to get to where we are today, and it would be nice to move this ahead. And if this is what it takes to move it ahead, this is great. I know there's a large pile of dust, stone dust, that I know Laurentian Hills would like to see spread, and this is the beginning of a process through the garrison to complete the trail, or beginning of the trail. So I'm happy to see this moving ahead at this point in time. So kudos to staff. As I say, this has been a long, drawn-out affair to get permission to go through the garrison to get it to where it is today. So comments on 2. Jeb.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to comment on the mountains of stone dust. It has dwindled considerably in the last little while. No, prior, when it was laid, it was quite a high mound, and it has reduced in height considerably in comparison to the way it was before. So it's not the talk of the town anymore. Put it that way. Thank you.
I'm assuming it's sinking into the ground. That's what you're saying. Anyway, further on 2. Then go to item number 3. Warden.
Thank you very much, Chair. I just want to acknowledge staff, and in particular Jason. for the amount of time and effort he's put in to work with the residents of Burns Drive and Laurentian Valley to try to come to some agreement around mitigation for some of the issues that they seem to be facing. And I also want to commend Mr. McDougall for offering to build his own fence. I think that is a great opportunity for us. I fully support that. I don't support paying him back should we get grant money. Again, if we get grant money, it's oftentimes specified for a specific area of the trail, and I think we would be getting into a back and forth as to does this grant money mean that we give money back to Mr. McDougall. So highly supportive of offering him a charitable donation receipt and for the cost of the fence going forward, and I'm hoping that once that fence goes up that other residents in that neighborhood may also consider doing something very similar. But anyway, I want to again thank Jason in particular for all the work he's done over the past number of years with this group.
Yeah, thank you, Warden, for that. Certainly you can't get paid twice for it. Either you get a receipt or you get paid for it, but you can't get it twice. So that's where it gets a little bit tricky. So rather than hold it up, I think it would be straightforward to go forward with what they're suggesting, is that we move forward and install it, and if possible, issue a receipt going forward. It's awful hard to get a grant after the fact and fund that, so that's a difficult situation. So I support this particular situation as well. Further on 3, or anything on 3? Okay, then we'll go to the resolution. Jason, please.
The first resolution found on page 40 of your committee package, the all-terrain vehicle trail pass, County of Renfrew Trails. And I'll read the recommendation and provide some background. That the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council approve the trail pass requirement for all-terrain vehicles, ATVs, on the Algonquin and K&P recreational trails starting in the 2023 season, and further that staff be directed to modify the existing lease agreement with the Renfrew County ATV Club to reflect the trail pass requirements, and further that the K&P Recreational Management Advisory Committee be informed of this decision. And as background, Chair, this is not a new item to this committee or County Council. Back in May, we brought the same item to the committee for review and discussion, and County Council asked staff to go back to the ATV Club to see what we can do for compensation for this trail pass requirement. And what you have in your committee package found on page 49 and 51 is what the Renfrew County ATV is willing to give to the County of Renfrew as in-kind contribution, as you see is broken out there, and with an annual cost associated with that. So in the original request, or the original compensation response was a $2,000 cash contribution. At the Algonquin Trail Advisory Committee last Wednesday, committee directed staff to see if we can actually change that to say a $2,000 cash contribution to the County of Renfrew would be the baseline. If for some reason the trail passes, the sale of trail passes to the Renfrew County ATV Club increase, we'd get some more funds from the ATV Club. So we now built into, and they've agreed upon a 3%. So whatever revenue they receive from trail passes, the county will receive 3% of that revenue. Again, it's not a lot of money, but it's enough to help acknowledge what the county has done with the purchase of these rail lines and to move forward with this partnership. Staff see this partnership, yes, the cash contribution is beneficial. More importantly, we see the in-kind contribution as overly more so, because the idea when the County of Renfrew has 1/2 staff member trying to maintain these trails, it's very beneficial to have different clubs and organizations to support us. So whenever the windstorm happened in the spring, the ATV Club was out clearing these trails. So I look at this as a very beneficial and positive experience, and I think that we're at a good point now to move this file along for the 2023 season, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, discussion on this particular item. We had a very robust discussion at the Algonquin Trail Advisory on this particular situation, and there is a tremendous contribution that is made in kind to to the Algonquin Trail. When you see the 3% and the base amount is $2,000 and from there up, so the minimum we would receive is $2,000, but who knows where it might go in the future. I think this is a good move partnership-wise forward to assist the Algonquin Trail for maintenance, etc. And I think it was certainly, as I say, a robust discussion that we had at the Algonquin Trail. And I'm quite comfortable with this particular situation moving forward. I think it'll benefit the taxpayers of Renfrew County who use that trail. They do a stellar job, and I can tell you, they did contribute $40,000, and who knows what might be ahead if they apply for grants, et cetera, and they are a good partner when it comes to the trail. So, comments on this before I go forward? Dan?
Thank you, Chair. To Jason, would there be an expiry date on the agreement? Like, can we review this in 4 years?
Jason?
Every lease we have with any organization does have an expiry date, so we can review this. But we, with the staff level, will review the annual contribution on an annual basis. That's the intent.
Thank you. Further? Then I need a mover and a seconder for this. Warden, seconded by Dan. Oh, any discussion on this further? And I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. Thank you. I think that's a positive move for the Algonquin Trail. Okay, Rural Ontario Conference 2023.
Thank you, Chair. Item number 5 on page 42 of your committee package. And the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council approve a delegation request at the 2023 Rural Ontario Municipal Association (ROMA) annual conference with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs to discuss the Line Fences Act as it relates to the cost of municipal ownership of abandoned rail corridors in Ontario. So as background, for those of you that may not be aware, there's a certain provision in the Line Fences Act, Section 20 of the Line Fences Act, that states if a municipality purchases lands from a discontinued rail line, we, the County of Renfrew, or a municipality, is liable for 100% of the costs for any fencing request, i.e. new fence or repairs of fences. So we realized that when we purchased the rail line. The reality is staff is dedicating more and more staff time and monies towards this. We see this as not being beneficial or being fair to municipalities that own these discontinued rail lines. And all we're doing is requesting an audience with the minister just to discuss this section of the Line Fences Act to make it maybe more equitable when these requests come in. So whenever there's a request to maintain, fix, or build a new fence from a farmer, again, we are liable for 100% of the costs. And right now we budget between $20,000 to $30,000 a year for these requests, and they're only increasing. And again, we're not the only municipality going through this, having this issue. And again, if you're a farmer, it's a great deal for the farmer, but it's very onerous for the County of Renfrew. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, discussion on this. So they're really just going to ask for an opportunity to discuss this at the Roma conference by way of a delegation. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, I guess, is the best way to put that. So if you don't bring it to their attention, then you're continuing to go along with the existing status quo. So I see nothing wrong with asking for an opportunity to discuss this. And to do that, we have this resolution in front of us, and if you're comfortable with this, I need someone to move it and second it. Peter, seconded by Sheldon. Sorry, I can't see you over there, Kathy, after a fact. That's okay. Peter.
Just a bit of an infomercial. Roma is held Sunday, January 22nd till Tuesday, January 24th at the Sheridan Center. It's $565 for a full registration, which is a great deal. And you can soon go on the website and make your delegation request. I think it'll be opened up on Friday of this week. And rooms are also available as of Friday of this week. Thank you.
Peter, do non-elected official people allowed to go to that?
Sure.
Why is everyone laughing at that? Anyway, okay, further, what's happening here? I don't know, it's falling apart here. I'm breaking a bias. Okay, okay. Further on the item number 5. There's a mover and a seconder, do we have? Yes? If there's nothing, then I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. Number 6.
Thank you, Chair. So item number 6, and the last item in the forestry and GIS report, is a bylaw for the snowmobile lease agreement. So the recommendation, Chair, that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council adopt a bylaw to enter into a lease agreement with the West Carleton Snowmobile Trails Association of the Ontario Federation of Snowmobile Clubs District 1, and further that this lease agreement for a period of 5 years commencing on December 1st, 2022 and expiring on April 30th, 2027. Again, like the Trans-Canada Pipeline Agreement, this is a housekeeping issue. We did sign an agreement with District 6 for the same section. It came to our attention earlier this year that in reality, the West Carleton Club comes into the Renfrew County jurisdiction on the Algonquin Trail for about 900 meters. And so what you see on page 53 of your committee package is that section basically is from the Highway 17 overpass to the Madawaska River Bridge in the town of Renfrew. So again, a housekeeping bylaw, Chair, or housekeeping issue, which we want to clean up. And hopefully this will alleviate any more liability issues for the West Carleton Snowmobile Club. Thank you.
Thank you. Open it up for comments or questions. Seeing none, if you're comfortable with the recommendation, you need a mover and a seconder. Kathy and Jeb, further discussion or any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, we now go, thank you, Jason, we'll go to real estate. Kevin, please.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to the committee. Good afternoon. The real estate report is found on starts on page 54. Under information, item number 1 is an attached appendix is the updates of the projects that have been completed to date and the projects that are still in progress. Item number 2, staffing update for the building infrastructure coordinator. The 1-year contract position has been filled. We are pleased to have Gary Davis join our team. Gary joined us on September the 26th as well. And Gary comes to us with some experience and knowledge, and we look forward to working with Gary in the upcoming months. Item number 3, lease terminations at Renfrew County Place. The Development and Property Department received formal notifications from the Renfrew County and District Health Unit and Community Futures Development Corporation, where they intend to vacate the premises when their leases expire. The Renfrew County District and Health Unit, their current lease ends on June 23rd, and for the Community Futures Development Corporation, their lease ends on January 31st. But they have requested a one-month extensions till the end, the 1st of April. And of course, staff will review the financial implications, and we'll be looking for and considering alternative solutions to address this and fill the vacancies. Item number 4 is request for proposal DMP RFP-2022-08 snow removal for the Deep River ambulance base. The Development Property Department, we issued a RFP for a 3-year contract for snow removal services at the Deep River paramedic base, commencing November 1st, 2022 until October 31st, 25. 3 companies had requested proposals, and we had one proponent show up at a mandatory site meeting, and that proponent or company was P&G Pumping from Deep River, Ontario, and their RFP that was submitted was for the sum of $43,200. The proposal has been awarded to P&G Pumping by the Director of Development and Property in accordance with the policy GA-01. This contract will, of course, increase by about 14%. The feedback and the consensus from the service providers that do snow removal, two significant items that are increasing the cost, of course, are fuel costs and liability insurance. And that's the consensus from a lot of the contractors that provide this service. The resolutions item.
Well, let's just stop at that point, and I'll take the information
Sorry,
items
Chair,
first.
yes, I'll stop.
Kevin, then we'll go on. Item number 1. Comments? Seeing none. Oops. Sorry, who? Councillor Lynch. Dan.
Thank you, Chair. To Kevin, in the past, under the real estate, we used to get a little formula of how many houses had been built in the way of subdivisions, the average cost of the house or whatever. During our pandemic, we got it every quarter, I guess it was. Could you provide that again in the next time round under the real estate? I believe that's where it was.
Through you, Chair, maybe direct this to Jason.
Jason, it looks as though you're on the spot here.
That's fine, Chair, if I may, through you. So we typically receive this from yourself, Chair, and through Craig Kelly, the former director. So what we'll do is we'll find out where your source was for these numbers and be part of our committee package. Maybe, again, quarterly would be beneficial. So we'll start including that in the 2023 committee packages.
Well, you're talking about the sales in Renfrew County, average sales numbers, et cetera, et cetera. I have that. It's usually passed on automatically to you, and I can give you the information. I don't have it. I do have it. It's on my phone. Somehow or other, I'd have to open that up if I could find out what the password is. Dan.
Thank you, Chair. It just gives the opportunity of all the municipalities to see who's growing and at what speed and what the average cost of houses is. It's a good opportunity to have that kind of information when we go back to our councils.
And I'll find out why it's not sent. It goes to my office, and then it's normally it comes to the county, but I'll find out why. But I'll certainly have it if you want to include it in the what do you call it, the county council report. That would be fine. But it's up to the warden and the CEO if they want to do that. But it is available. I get it from a local realtor who gets it from the local real estate board. Okay, there you go. Okay, further on 1. Then 2. Welcome aboard. There we go. Item 3. Warden.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just wondering, I'm curious, the Renfrew County District Health Unit vacating Renfrew County Place, are they closing their office space in Renfrew, or what's the intent there?
I think that's a fair question. Someone can answer it. Who's on the board? Peter? Okay.
Yes, thank you. With the benefit of my notes in front of me, we received a note last week at the health unit meeting without any real prior notice that they were reviewing the lease, and there was 5 bullet points that very vaguely suggested they didn't need the space. There was no suggestion on how they were going to continue serving the community in Renfrew. No disclosure as to any kind of conversation with staff to discover what the impact was going to be. No cost comparison because they suggested the traditional style of office space was outdated. That's my inferences to the 1 bullet point I do recall. But no cost comparison as to whether to renovate it or what the benefit would be. So I don't have any more information. We've asked for more information. We had a recorded vote, and the board voted in favor of it with the same lack of information that caused us to vote against it.
Warden?
Thank you very much, Chair, and through you to thank you, Councillor Emo, for that information. I sat on the Health Unit Board, I guess it was 4 years ago now, perhaps, and I know at that time we were talking about different ways of configuring services out there. The choice at that time by the board was to the status quo and to maintain these offices. So, and I will bring it up tomorrow again at Health Committee, but I think that it's our responsibility to perhaps write a letter to the Health Unit making sure that the services that are available right now in an office in Renfrew are somehow maintained for that portion of the county that requires access to an office situation.
Yeah, I think that's important to find out exactly what is going on. Is it too much space there? If that's the case, are they agreeable or to reducing the size that is required there?
I can assure you that was not one of the 5 bullet points that contained 7 words each.
Oh, okay. That's an interesting. Well, good luck. I don't know where you go with this other than to make sure that level of service you're talking about is maintained. That's a large portion of the county of Renfrew. They don't have representation, I don't believe, in Barry's Bay anymore. They used to have it at one time, certainly when I was there. They closed the Barry's Bay issue. Now there's Pembroke and where else? Renfrew? Craig?
I'll suggest, and thank you through you, Chair, was that when I received notice of the cancellation or the termination of the notice of termination, was a reach back out to them to say, are you willing to renegotiate or negotiate other terms? And it's fallen on deaf ears. There was a silent response to that request. We would have entertained any other option to maintain that space, obviously. They've been good tenants for a number of years at Renfrew County Place, and Renfrew County Place is, as you know, was developed with a thought of having all governmental agencies within that building. So it's unfortunate that this tenant has chosen to leave. Well, both tenants have chosen to leave, and it's notwithstanding the financial hardship we will now experience with 2 leaseholders leaving. But these are spaces meant for the public and meant for these type of organizations to be in, and it's unfortunate they have chosen not to respond to us at this time.
Yeah, it's certainly a level of service that okay, it costs money, I get that, but there's also a level of service that needs to be maintained in that environment down there too. So I'm encouraged that staff will review and consider alternative solutions to fill the vacancies, and that is one of them, to sit down and talk. But simply because they've said no at this point in time to both, I presume to the Renfrew County District Health Unit and CFDCs, or the CFDC, yes. I think it's an opportunity to sit down and talk. As you've said, rightly so, CEO, there's a financial crunch to the revenue stream coming in from the county, and what do you do to offset that? I'm not suggesting that it could not be filled with others, but this level of service there is, I think, essential to the taxpayers of the county of Renfrew. So I think every effort should be made to see what can be to maintain that. But it sounds as though perhaps they're not willing to. But anyway, that.
I believe that now that it's been spoken about this committee and will be spoken about tomorrow's committee, that there will be a notice go around to the community in Renfrew outlining the 5 sparse bullet points, and I think that'll generate some questions. I understand it's in draft form right now.
Sure. Well, I think that's important to begin that process, but it's just it's Horton, it's Edmondson Bromley, it's Arnprior, it's McNabb Braeside, it's Greater Madawaska. It services a large section of the county of Renfrew. Okay. That's a interesting piece of information. I'm sure staff will continue to work with that and bring forward the ramifications of all that, what that means, including what is the revenue stream that we get on a monthly basis that will be lost going forward with that, apart from the level of service. Warden.
Thank you, Chair. And just in reference to the level of service, that's why I'm not asking for anything in particular, a letter to the Board of Health today, but tomorrow at Health Committee, that is my intention, is to ask the committee for direction to send a letter just clarifying. You know, this committee's issue, of course, is the space and the lack of or the loss of revenue. Health Committee's responsibility will be to ensure that the services are going to be provided in that part of the county. So that's where we will go tomorrow. Is with my request will be for committee to approve a letter to the Board of Health, just asking for clarification as where those services will be provided, or should they be leaving Renfrew County Place in June?
Sure, and the other one, of course, is the CFDC. That's a vital piece of information as well that is needed for, it's maybe not as critical for location-wise, but I still think somewhere along the line there's a place to hang your hat or interview people or talk to people or files or whatever. So I think that's an important one too that has to be nurtured along. So, Kevin, oh, pardon me. Item number 4 is just an information item. It's already been, you don't need a resolution to that effect? Just information.
That's correct. That's correct, Chair.
Okay, anything on 4? Then we'll go to item number 5 and begin the resolutions. Kevin?
Thank you, Chair. On the resolutions, item number 5, integrated community housing. I'll read the recommendation, Chair. Recommendation that the Development Property Committee recommends that County Council make a formal request to the City of Pembroke that all municipal fees and charges as they relate to the building of integrated community housing units at Lee Street and Douglas Streets be waived, and further that the Community Services Committee be so advised of this recommendation. And for the background, and perhaps I'll just read the background. At the December 2021 meeting of County Council Resolution number CSCC-22-08-59 was passed, which stated that County Council accept the Pembroke multi-residential concept as presented by V&G Architects, and further that staff be directed to proceed with the tender process to build new housing units located at Lee Street and Douglas Street in the City of Pembroke on lands owned by Renfrew County Housing Corporation, and further approve the reallocation of $250,000 from the Ontario Priorities Housing Initiative program that was originally approved for an affordable secondary suites program to be used for the integrated community housing complex in Pembroke, Ontario. So the plans are underway for the building of the integrated community housing project, and so at these units that are located in the City of Pembroke, the City of Pembroke has requested a formal written request so that they could review and approve anything related to municipal fees. And I'll stop.
Okay, thank you for that,
there,
Kevin.
Chair.
Okay, before I ask for a mover and a seconder for this, I'll open it up for any discussions or comments on this particular issue. Warden, then Peter.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm expecting a very positive response from the City of Pembroke for this request. Certainly, the Mayor, Michael May, and the councillors Jacquinot and Lafreniere, who are both on the Social Services and the Health Committee, have spoken frequently about affordable housing and the need for it in this area. So I'm really expecting to get a very, very positive response, hopefully within the month.
Thank you very much. Peter.
Thank you, and this through you to staff. In some instances in the past, there's been an allowance for a zoning of residential as opposed to multi-residential, which then allowed the assessed rate and the taxes to be lowered. And I'm wondering if that's also something we could include in this, or if that's already been negotiated.
That is something I'll need to hand over to staff. You're correct. To go from multi-res down to residential is a substantial savings on the operating expenditures.
Yeah, that was a previous program from the Ontario government. I think it may have been, in fact, the development in Petawawa and the one in Renfrew that Community Services completed 7 and 5 years ago, respectively. But I believe that was part of the agreement that had to be signed by the county as the service provider and the host municipalities.
That, I think, had something to do with central mortgage and housing minimum or maximum rentals or something. And I don't. It gets very convoluted, doesn't it? The different number of units that are out there and types of situations. Maybe Laura or maybe Jason. Somebody. Talk to us.
Talk to us. So what staff will do based on the comments made by Councillor Ema, we'll review this to see if it fits into this application or not and move forward if need be. So I'll leave it at that for now, Chair.
Okay, but I'm encouraged with what the warden has said, because that seems to be the thing out there. This election cycle, affordable housing is number one on everyone's fingertips or in the tips of their tongue. That's what we need, affordable housing. Well, you got to make it affordable, and everyone has to pitch in to do that. It can't be done on its own. There has to be a partnership of all levels of government in order to make it, quote, affordable. Okay, further on that. Then I need a motion to accept the recommendation, please. Dan and the warden. Further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor. Opposed, if any, it's carried. Okay. Item number 6.
Thank you, Chair. Under bylaws, item number 6, request for proposal DNP-RFP-2022-08 janitorial contracts for 7 and 9 International Drive. I'll read the recommendation. Recommendation that the Development and Property Committee recommends to County Council that the proposed submitted by Glacier Maintenance, Inc., Belleville, Ontario, or Belleville, I guess that's it'd be just Belleville, Ontario. Ottawa probably should not be in there. Ontario for the provision of janitorial services for the county administration building at 7 and 9 International Drive, Pembroke, Ontario, in the amount of $267,300 plus GST for the 3-year period effective November 1st, 2022 to October 31st, 2025 be approved, and further that a bylaw be passed to enter into an agreement, and further that bylaw 107-18 is hereby repealed. So the background on that is there was a request for RFP to provide janitorial services for the county administration building here in Pembroke for a 3-year contract from November 21st, 2022 to October 31st, 2025. That was issued on September 9th, 2022 and closed September 29th. And the existing contract expires October 31st, 2022 of this year. So there's a mandatory site meeting that was held on September 29th, and we had 6 companies in attendance. And we received a total of 4 bids. And as you can see, the 4 bids were from Glacier Maintenance, GDI Services, Dodds Janitorial, and Service Star Building Cleaning, Inc. The proposals that were submitted, we did do an evaluation, and the evaluation resulted in the proposal from Glacier Maintenance best fits the meets the deliverables of for the RFP, and that amount of Glacier Maintenance Inc. is $267,300. And you can see that the total score there was 87.85. So the cost of this 3-year contract, again, is $267,300. And in comparison to the previous contract, which is a good news story for a change, we've seen a decrease as opposed to an increase. And we see savings of $22,935. So that's a good news story. And I'll just stop there, Chair.
Absolutely. Don't change it, okay? Okay, I'll open up for comments or questions. Dan?
Thank you, Chair. Definitely good news. I'm curious, do we not have any cleaning people in the valley? I mean, this is an opportunity to create a company as one of your starter companies and make a pile of money and be local. Surely there's more than just our buildings. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, thank you for that question. Like we put the RFP out, and of course, this is the interest we received. And previously, it was, I guess last month or 2 months ago, we had put an RFP out for the contract at RCP, and it was much the same. There was really no local interest in submitting proposals for a contract.
Fair enough. Thank you. Further? Need a motion then, please. Peter, Kathy, discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed, if any, carried. Okay, item number 7.
Well, thank you, Chair. Item number 7, request for proposal -DP-RFP-2022-07 for 410 and 450 O'Brien snow removal. And I'll read the recommendation. The recommendation that the Development Property Committee recommends to County Council that the proposal submitted by Lloyd Hisco Snow Plowing, Renfrew, Ontario for the provision of snow removal services at 410 and 450 O'Brien Road for the amount of $183,000 plus GST for the period of 3 years starting November 1st, 2022 to October 31st, 2025 be approved, and further that County Council pass a bylaw to enter into an agreement. In the background on that is, of course, a RFP was issued for snow removal services at the Renfrew County Place, which is the Ontario Provincial Police Station, and 450 O'Brien. We requested, this was for a 3-year contract starting November 1st, 2022 until October 31st, 2025. The existing contract with Lloyd Hisco Snow Plowing expired this past spring of 2022. So 3 companies had requested a proposal, and two companies showed up, and we received 2 bids. And as you can see, the 2 bids were from Lloyd Hisco at $183,000, and the second bid was from Eric Haltink Landscape in Renfrew, Ontario for $189,300. The proposal from Lloyd Hisco Snow Plowing was selected for best meeting the deliverables based on the following: that they've previously had the contract for several years, and they provide exceptional service. We had I think we had very few complaints during this period of time, so we are pleased that they provide exceptional service. And again, this contract, the snow contract, there's going to be an increase, and as previously stated, the driving factors are increased in fuel cost and insurance, liability insurance for the contractors that provide this service. And Chair, that is the end of
Thank you very
report.
much. Kevin, I'll open up for comments. What we gained on one, we lost on the other, so. Not all of it. Any comments? Then any motion, please. Sheldon, seconded by Jab. No discussion. I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Thank you. With that, thank you, Kevin. We will go to planning. Bruce, please.
Thank you, Chair. The package is found on page 62 of the committee's report today. There are 3 information items and then a couple of resolutions. I'll start with information item number 1. This was a letter that was sent to all heads of council within Ontario by Steve Clark. It's regarding public consultation, and this letter identifies the different methods for meeting the statutory requirements for holding a public meeting under the Planning Act. Information item 2. I believe this was a request from County Council just for a quick update on the file backlog that the Planning Department has encountered over the last couple of years. So as previously reported, as a result of multiple factors, that we have had a backlog of severance and general inquiries with an approximate 4 to 5 month delay. And I can say that while we still do have a backlog for general inquiries, we strive to have a response back to people who are using the service within 30 days. And we have reduced that delay. It was 4 to 5 months and has been reduced to about 60 days. So while we're not quite at our target date, we are making progress in the right direction and making a big dent in that. And we're on track to get back within our desired response times. We do still have a backlog of consent applications, and again, we are on pace to exceed our previous high of consent applications. So back in 2021, so last year, we had our highest year for, well, since at least I've been here, we had over 200 applications. And again, we are making progress in reducing this backlog. And so far this year, the county has received, as of September, 170 applications. So we are on pace to exceed even last year's numbers. So that's a good news story combined with we're trying to improve our service delivery times, but it's also a good news story that we are receiving a very high volume of applications. With regards to other types of planning applications for subdivisions, official plans, zoning bylaw amendments, minor variances, and site plans, we do put a priority on these types of applications, and there is not any backlog providing that service for those applications. Item number 3, Chair, is an update on the comprehensive zoning bylaw projects that we have ongoing. So we have completed the Bonshire Valley zoning bylaw, and ongoing are the townships of North Algonquin, Wilberforce, and Killaloe, Haggerty, and Richards. These projects have been put on hold temporarily due to municipal elections, and in this sort of, we'll say, lull of not being actively working on these projects, we have started working with the townships of the United Townships of Head Clare and Mariah, and also with the town of Lurton Hills on creating draft bylaws for council's consideration in the new year. And perhaps we'll stop there, Chair.
Thank you, Bruce. Go back. Item number 1, information letter from Steve Clark, Minister. Any comments? File backlog. Any comments on that? I think they're doing an excellent job catching up with that. Down to 60 days, 2 months from 4 to 5, I think is obviously moving in the right direction. I think that is something that should be received gratefully from members of the County Council. Jeb?
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Bruce. So, Bruce, some of the, seeing the decrease is definitely great. Is that part and parcel of you've done some re-engineering in your group, and is that sort of what's helping this process to improve, or you just got better people now?
Through you, Chair, I think we've always had good people, so we do have a great team in the planning department, and I think it's a combination of 2 things. So one, yes, definitely we are embracing the digital, I guess, universe of being able to process a lot of these files without paper, and that is, we are seeing time savings with that for sure. In addition, we have revamped our processes a little bit to change when and how we're doing some of those tasks that we have when we are processing files. And then also, as committee will remember, council did approve an increase to the number of planning staff. So also that is a significant factor as well. So that increase of having additional planning staff is a direct result in us being able to achieve and dig into that backlog.
Further on 2. Item number 3. An election gets in the root of a lot of things, doesn't it? Okay, with that, we'll go to resolution.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll just read the recommendation first and then provide a very brief bit of background. So this is with regards to a request for a consent reimbursement request. So the recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council declines Mr. Villeneuve's request for reimbursement of costs related to the severance process. And just for a bit of background information, Mr. Villeneuve did submit 2 consent applications to the County of Renfrew. There were some studies that were identified that were required to in support of those applications, which planning staff had identified. Mr. Villeneuve did have those studies prepared and submitted with his applications, and he is now requesting that he be reimbursed for the cost of those studies that were submitted on behalf of his application. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I'll open it up for comments or questions. Seeing none, you see the recommendation. I need a motion to accept. Dan, seconded by? Nobody. Kathy, okay. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. And I think that's it. I need a motion? No? Pardon me?
We have number 5.
Number 5? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, yes, of course. Go ahead, Bruce.
Great, thank you. So we do have an official plan amendment. This is official plan amendment number 36 to the County of Renfrew official plan. So I'll just read the recommendation first, then provide again the background information. The recommendation is that the Development and Property Committee recommends that County Council pass a bylaw to adopt and approve official plan amendment number 36 to the official plan of the County of Renfrew. So by way of background, a landowner has submitted an application to amend the official plan, and the purpose of this application is to enlarge the settlement boundary of Braeside and within the township of McNabb-Braeside. There was a public meeting that was held at the township office last Tuesday on October the 4th, and the application has been circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and including to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. In support of this application, a comprehensive planning justification study was submitted as required by the provincial policy statement. And we have been receiving letters of concerns and objections from ratepayers, and people from the public can continue to submit comments up until the time that a decision is made on the file. So up until essentially county council date or whenever that decision is made on that bylaw, ratepayers or any other public agencies with concerns or objections can continue to provide those comments up until that date. So at county council, when this application, if supported by committee, when this application is brought to county council for consideration, all of that correspondence that we have received will be provided to county council for their information. But at this time, even with some of the concerns that have been raised to date, it is planning staff's recommendation that the bylaw and the official plan amendment be given favorable consideration. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you very much. So you see the recommendation. Any comments on this recommendation, LP? If not, I need a motion. Oh, sorry, Peter, you're making a motion or you want to speak to it?
I'll do both.
You
I'll
do
make a
both,
motion
okay.
and just a couple questions.
Okay.
And so, as I understand it, this is there'll be a buffer to the east of the property where the landfill site is.
Through you, Chair, there is proximity to the landfill, and there will eventually be a study required to make sure that there are not any impacts from the existing landfill onto the new residential site. So that buffer distance has not yet been determined. So first of all, the official plan amendment that's being proposed is to redesignate the lands from rural to a village community designation, which will allow the subdivision. And then there will be future planned subdivision required, and that's where that detailed environmental study on the waste disposal site will be done. So at this time, we don't know what that buffer is required to be. It will be determined at a future state should this official plan amendment be approved.
And I believe I read, if I may, Chair, I believe I read in the report somewhere that it's not even close to being prime agricultural land, so that's not an issue. And it's, I think, aggregate or exhausted aggregate was what I think I read.
Thank you, Chair. That's correct. That was one of the concerns being raised, was that the field is currently, I think it's mostly hay at this time, but there is a field that's being used for agricultural purposes, but you are correct that this has not been designated as prime agricultural lands. And the reference to mineral aggregate is right next to the Arm Prior landfill. There's also a licensed aggregate pit, and similar to the landfill, there will have to be a future study on that pit to make sure that there are any issues with regards to noise or dust or well water, for example. All of those will be studied and addressed at the future plan subdivision stage.
Peter?
If I might, Chair. And so one of the chronic concerns in Braeside was that the lots, the existing older lots from the 1800s are very small. So I'm assuming that any lots in this subdivision would be larger than the existing lots and meet with our current official plan.
Through you, Chair. Yes, that's correct. So the old lot fabric, yes, was undersized compared to current or modern standards, and through that plan subdivision process, the applicant will be required to produce and prepare a hydrogeological evaluation, which will look at the groundwater in the area, making sure that there's enough groundwater for quality and quantity for both the proposed new houses without having any impact on the existing settlement of Braeside. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further comments? Then I need a motion to accept the recommendation. Please, Peter, seconded by Jeb. No discussion. Call for the vote. All in favor? Opposed of any? It's carried. There, now we're finished then. Good. Okay. I need a motion to accept the report as a whole. Kathy and Jeb, all in favor? That is carried. Okay. New business. Does any member have any new business? The County of Renfrew's development and property. No? Okay. Sorry, Jeb.
Thank you, Chair. I guess this is going to be the last development property meeting for my term here as who's sitting on the D&P committee. I must say that this has probably been one of the most interesting committees I've ever been on. There's a lot of you don't know what's going to get thrown at you from time to time, and I just wanted to thank everybody for the staff, for the great work that they do, and I'm really, really glad that I had the opportunity to sit on this committee. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Warden.
Thank you very much, Chair. And sort of in the same vein as Councillor Reinwald, I actually want to acknowledge our Chair and the fact that you've been the Chair of this committee for many, many years, but I've really appreciated you chairing this committee during my term as Warden. You know, you bring in enthusiasm and knowledge that is unmatched as far as I'm concerned when we come to this committee. And you've worn out a few directors over the years, so congrats for that. I think Jason's like, oh, well, tick, tick. But again, I just want to thank you so very, very much for the time and effort you've put into this committee. As Jed indicated, there's a lot that comes through the members here, and there's a lot of divisions and a lot of knowledge that must be had by the chair to make this run smoothly. So again, thank you very, very much for all of your efforts.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it's a little bit sad when you're leaving, because this is one of the best committees, because you deal with just about everything, all the nuts and bolts. Quite frankly, this is a committee that deals with everything the other committees don't want to deal with. So we are the sort of garbage collectors, but if you want to call it that. But at the end of the day, it's been an exciting journey, quite frankly. And yeah, Warden, you're right. I've worn out 5 CEOs, and I've worn out 5 5 directors going along that. Actually, 7 wardens I've worn out, which is even more important, I suppose. But it's been an interesting journey. There's no question. It's hard to imagine that the time has gone by so quickly. I think I first came on the Development and Property Committee in 2002. So 20 years that have gone, and as chair, it's 2004. I became the chair, so 18 years. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and I want to say thank you to all of those very fine people that I've had the opportunity to work with. There's no I in team, and we've had a little bit of fun, and maybe my style is a little bit not as strict or structured or whatever, but I do take it seriously, but not too seriously. I think we can have a little bit of fun along the way, and that's how I operate. I don't use councillor this or councillor that, first names, etc., except when you get to county council. Few people, though, I do want to recognize along the way, and they're the ones that actually make it happen. Evelyn Van Starkenburg over the years has been an absolute rock as far as keeping me and everybody else on track. Evelyn, thank you for being who you are going along there. And before you, there was Judy Kelly, who's no longer with us, but Judy was a fine young lady. Donna Roots is still there, but and don't get too excited when I use this name towards the person that has kept me on the straight and narrow. That's Rosebud, who's sitting back there. And that's Rose Grunts. Rose, thank you for being who you are and being a real friend to me, and someone who's kept me level, shall we say, and had that one thing in mind is called the Municipal Act. And when I have been known to just go over the edge just a little bit, but it's been a great journey. And thank you, Warden, for your kind words. That's exceptional. I go back and I'll not mention them all, but the first warden I worked with was a chap by the name of Barry Moran, and Janice will know who Barry Moran was. So he's the guy number 15 from the left on the Rogues Gallery out there. So thank you very, very much. Hopefully that there will be no further meeting, no special meeting of Development and Property going forward. So yes, this is the last meeting, and I'm looking forward to retiring, but I'll be keeping my eye on all of you, and especially Bruce there with his official plan and provincial policy statements and things of that nature. So yeah, thank you, and it's just I'll see you later type of thing. It's not goodbye, okay? So I've made a lot of friends over the years here, and I continue to hope they will continue along that way. As we close this meeting, I want to say to everyone, congratulations for putting your name forward and running. It's a high honor to be not only to be nominated going forward for council, but to be actually elected. So good luck to each and every one of you as you go forward. On the 24th, I believe, is the final day, although I'm not interested in it, really, I'm not. I have no interest in putting up signs and things like that, and pamphlets and knocking on doors. But anyway, so thank you to each and every one of you. And with that, I need a motion for close. Janice, seconded by Dan. All in favor? We're out of here. Thank you very much.